Rolf Ahrens, you're up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Rolf Ahrens. I live here in Gillette. We've heard a lot about nuclear. There's a lot of town halls going on, and I was the constituent that met with Commissioner Clem yesterday. It was a fantastic conversation. I just want to acknowledge that and thank him for that time. We've heard a lot about waste and worries, nuclear accidents, nuclear. I'm going to look at it a slightly different way, and I see Attorney Brown is here, and I'm glad he's here, because I want to make sure I reference this correctly. Bear with me, I can't read my phone too well. Where did it go? Okay. And my phone, I apologize, give me a second here. So I realize there's city scope and there's county scope. So this is city scope, but I believe it affects us all, so I'm starting with that here to make clear why I'm talking about the next topic. And this is, whereas the city has expressed an interest in evaluating nuclear energy as a source of reliable industrial heat and electricity for the city's residents. So it's exploratory, it's nothing signed, nothing's been, and I'm not asserting that, just reading what's driving my next comment. We've talked a lot about the waste. When I saw that, I became curious about the cost of electricity. So I did some research on that. I'm like Commissioner Jordan, I like to dig into things. I called Gillette, and I pay approximately 10 cents an hour for or 10 cents per kilowatt hour of my electricity. I found 4 different sources. One was pro-nuclear, one was kind of agnostic, and actually most of them were agnostic. And what I came up with was typically we're going to look at about an 80% increase in cost. That's what I determined by my numbers. Doesn't mean these are the numbers, but the numbers that I could find. There was a meeting back in June 26, 2023, there were 2 gentlemen, Todd Allen, Steve Auermeyer. You guys may have met them at INL. They talked about energy costs are going to go up when we switch to microreactors. If this happens, it's not determined yet. One said your costs are going to go up, and the other said you're looking at a 50% increase. There are other numbers floating around, but when I looked at those numbers, this is going to strain some people who are living on the margin now. If their costs go up that much, it's going to be a problem. Some people can absorb the cost. Businesses are going to be affected. Business costs will go up. And now will they have to raise prices? So we create a possible effect. Just something I'm asking you guys to consider. I'm switching to my second topic. So as you guys know, I spent 14 years at Rutgers doing environmental remediation and research and that. And then I switched my hat and I was on Wall Street for 3 years, among other things. So the next comments are based upon those 2 things merging. We've talked about economic job growth, the nuclear life cycle. We haven't talked about BWXT as a company. So I've dug into the research. A lot of this came right off of their website. So they are actually being pretty transparent. What I could find without going into a lot of low-level detail, they are highly leveraged. They have a lot of debt. That's a concern. I'll point out something later. Their price is affected by, their stock price is affected by the political environment. You can see changes when Trump issued his executive orders on May 23rd, their price bumped very significantly, about 20% in 2 or 3 days. So they're affected by the headwinds, and that makes sense. A lot of their business is tied to government, 60, 70, 80%. So if those winds change, could affect what they do. A little bit of their history. In 1978, they were acquired by a company called McDermott. That becomes relevant in a few minutes, or not that long. In 1979, McDermott unfortunately timed their purchase right before the 3 Mile Island meltdown. And that was attributed to mechanical failure, human error before, during, and after the event. That was 50-ish years ago, so technology has improved. I get that. Things are much better, much stronger. But you can't eliminate human error. There was just a Mars mission, going on a tangent, that just crashed and burned on Mars because one team used English units, one team used metric, and the thing crashed. Human error, you cannot eliminate that. In 2000, Babcock and Wilcox went bankrupt, and BWXT was within that company. They were bankrupt for 6 years from asbestos litigation. They emerged from that. In 2009, McDermott, that parent company, spun off Babcock and Wilcox, which contained the nuclear component. In 2015, Babcock and Wilcox then split. BWXT became the parent company, and Babcock and Wilcox, the non-nuclear part, was separated. In 2000, between the next 3 years, BW, the non-nuclear part, they just tanked. And there was some speculation why that happened. They now trade on the pink sheets, and they're basically going to go bankrupt. In 2020, McDermott, the company that acquired them and spun them off, they went bankrupt. The cause was excessive debt. That's what I found in the paper, in the research. 2021, the CEO and CFO of BWXT abruptly quit. That's unusual at a C level for these companies, and it wasn't really clear why, but they just, boom, gone. And I've got permission from this next company to mention their name, Jehoshaphat Research, in 2022, did a deep multi-year investigation of BWXT and cited aggressive accounting to pad their profits. So I just want you guys to consider, as we go forward, this is not, it's waste, but going back to my background, a lot of my work was some company came along, they sold and flipped things around, and suddenly we have a legacy mess of stuff to clean up because the company went bankrupt. That is my concern. I also spent time at Goldman Sachs, and you guys will see related to Savannah River CRESP, Consortium for Risk Evaluation with Stakeholder Participation. I was on that for 3 years, all about risk assessment. To me, this background of BWXT is at least worth a look to assess, as you pointed out when we first mentioned it, about the liability. Is there a liability here that could come up? Is it probable? I don't know. It's just something I ask you guys as you venture forward to just keep that in the back of your heads. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up would be Vaughn Koshgren.
I even have trouble pronouncing it.
Well, I don't think I got it right.
There is no right answer. First of all, I think it'd be remiss of me to not convey how impressed I am with this board. I've never been at any government meeting, and I'm pretty old, where I felt so well represented. And if anything deserves to be applauded, it's your transparency and frankly, your respect to the people that you're supposed to be representing by involving us early on and actually soliciting our active participation. So thank you very much. Having said that, just as an amateur, if I can offer an observation about this issue that Commissioner McCreary raised about meetings. I appreciate the different points of view, but I would say the analogy of meeting at a John Patriot meeting or a gas station or a Perkins isn't quite an accurate analogy, because John Patriot, they have no authority, they can't pass laws, they don't represent anybody, it's just a community level meeting. So I appreciate both sides of the argument, but if that helps resolve the issue, maybe it'd be a good line of delineation for what should be reported and what shouldn't. But moving on to the real comments, as a member of the Great Unwashed, I have to confess that I'm completely out of my depth when it comes to assessing nuclear risk. So, I can gather tons and tons of data, but at the end of the day, it's got to be meaningful to me. It's got to be tractable to the average person. So what I did was I tried to find an alternate indice which would help me to gauge the actual risk. And so what I did was I looked to what I thought would be an excellent resource, people that specialize in risk and risk management. So I looked up what insurance companies insure the nuclear industry. And I ended up with the Price-Anderson Act, which currently provides all the damage coverages, all the damage coverage claims for both legacy reactors and SMRs. And SMRs are actually in a separate group because multiple SMRs are treated as a single reactor. And it doesn't explicitly talk about nuclear waste storage. So since they're all located, since they're co-located, I imagine the coverage from reactors would apply to the waste as well. And so what I wanted to ask was, do you know if we in Wyoming would be covered by the Price-Anderson Act, which currently provides coverage for the entire nuclear industry across the country? If we're not, how would we remedy any damages? Would we have to go through FEMA, heaven forbid, or would it take congressional involvement? When it comes to consent-based site decisions, would that be our decision or city council's on behalf of us? We need to cover that. And can we, if I understand we're not making decisions and it's not necessarily within your purview, but when a decision is made, could we sign the agreement in such a way that any future development in these fuels and the reactors would mandate a separate public ballot initiative? The reason I ask that is because right now, the technology is advancing so fast. Like right now in the entire world, there's only 2 SMRs operating commercially, right? And one is in Russia and one is in China, neither one of which is the paragon of benevolence to their public, to their citizenry. And so as the technology advances, if the fuel advances, and once we've signed on to this, will the government then be able to say, well, you're the depository, so, without really understanding the long-term risks, we're going to have to store it in Wyoming. Because right now, even with the SMRs, we're being told that there's a good safety record, but if there's none in commercial operation apart from one in China and one in Russia, what kind of record do we have? That's all I really had. I wanted to basically provide a framework which would allow the average citizen that's not a nuclear expert a way to get a meaningful understanding of the issues. And to me, the most critical for me is how to assess the risk. So again, I thank you and keep up the good work.
And I want to thank you for your input. I think it's very good that everybody here is a citizen and their viewpoint. And I can see that you've put a little thought into this and everything, and so hopefully through the stuff coming ahead of us with the town meetings and everything, we can make it where you and everybody else is better understanding at the risk, because you brought up some good points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one is Jack Clary. Then we get to take a little break. Jack?
It's needed. I'll be short, brief. I wasn't going to speak today at all, but I want to clarify something. This activity just didn't happen a month ago, 2 months ago. It's been going on for years. And I know there's people from the county and the city that went to DC and Virginia that I didn't even know about. They spent tax dollars to travel which it's the community. But we took the liberty to spend that without informing the community what it's about. So this thing where we're transparent, no, and I'll tell you, it'd be a city council. I wasn't informed about a lot of this stuff about 2 or 3 months ago when it surfaced. So why am I left out and other people, and it's not secret meetings, but they're traveling and not communicating to anybody? That's not right. So your comments are very well taken, Commissioner, and I just want to bring that out. It happens all the time. We don't get communicated. And as a city council person, I believe I should be least informed, because I'll be asked to make a decision down the road, which I don't understand the background. And I know this has been going on a couple of years, but it's never surfaced to the community. So you can word backdoor, you can call it secret meetings, what you want, but it's not transparent. And the community needs to be aware of this. And I really appreciate your comments on this, Chairman and Commissioners. I think it's very important that we all practice transparency. One other thing I want to bring up, our next communication that John Bear and I are hosting, will be October 2nd, and it's going to be in the City Hall. So you're welcome to attend and listen and bring your comments. Everybody's welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.